I hear a voice. Who are you? I'm like, Jared from Keller Williams. I'm here for a showing. No, you're not. I'm like, so I'm like, I'm literally, I'm holding the key. I'm like, the seller said I could show it. So he's like holding the dog, and then he just, oh yeah, lets the dog go. Yeah, we just have to run your credit to see if you qualify. Like, you didn't say nothing about credit on the ad, but no problem, no problem. So put down my credit, wrote down my credit. They ran my credit 26 times until they found somebody that would be willing to lend to me. So this dude opens the door, like the smell of liquor just hit me. I'm like, oh
Oh
shit.
gosh.
But that wasn't the worst part, bro. And then right behind him, yeah, I'm right behind him. There's this lady, like literally, she was just like with a dead face, with a dead face. She said, bro, she was butt naked, bro.
And we'll be back in three, two, one. We gone. Welcome back, families, to another episode of the First Sip Podcast. And I'm back here again with somebody, once again, who is he's a First Sip alumni now at this point. First Sip alumni, right? You guys know me, the host, Dekimbe, my boy Jared here. Same last name, Smith. We're not related, like I got to say every time. But
I think I'm starting to see the resemblance between
th-
us now. I think we've done so many of these. I think we look alike now.
it's, if, if I had my haircut at this time, people would start asking more questions. So
If I had your build, they'll probably be asking more questions. So
we'll exchange some tips in the new year. So I
please,
got you. I
please.
got you. Perfect. Perfect. So people, we're back again. I don't want to delay this, right, and have talk too much around the around a whole bunch of nonsense. But today I'm bringing Jared back to talk about some of the things that we experienced in 2024 when it comes to the real estate market and what we're going to be looking at going forward. Right. Things I've been talking about recently as far as affordability challenges for homeowners, problems with interest rates, right, and being able to even just find a monthly payment that's affordable. There's a lot of things that people are dealing with that we've been dealing with for a long time, and moving into the next year, we're trying to figure out, okay, are these things going to change, or are we going to be seeing a little bit more of the same? So once again, Jared is another agent partner who I work with here in Philadelphia, and he's somebody who I always bring on to break down some information for me. Let me know what he's seeing with his clients that he's working with, whether it be on the buyer side or on the renter side. And once again, just bring you guys some tips and some stories along the way. So we always have a fun, lighthearted conversation as well. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Jared, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Like always, I just never take these sit downs for granted. Especially allowing me to, the honor and the privilege of, talking to your followers and your supporters. So, just thank you for, always thinking of me. It's really humbling.
Oh, definitely, man. Like I said, we're both in, and it's always funny when I think back to like when we first connected and where we're at now, because we're both in this building phase right now of our real estate business. So being able to communicate with somebody about these things, about where we're at, some of the challenges, some of the highs, lows, that we're experiencing, it's almost therapeutic at a point. And even the way we were talking right before this, it's good to have somebody who you can just talk to and just
Hmm.
talk about life with, right, for
Hmm.
just about anything at different times. So
Hmm.
I appreciate you on that side. But today we're diving into, like I just talked about, some of the challenges. So I wanted to talk about first, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've been seeing for your buyers for this past year?
Oh man, I don't know where to begin. Uh, Number one, inventory.
Hmm.
Um, you know, uh, I'll be honest, sometimes I just have my head down so much with trying to make the next thing happen that sometimes I don't know what's going on in the market till somebody tells me.
Mm.
Until when I start asking, like, man, why is it so hard to find somebody a house? Hey, inventory,
Yep.
I don't want to say at an all-time low, but like a historic low. The fluctuation of interest rates. I'll be honest, this is my first time being as invested in real estate during an election cycle. So seeing how an election year. So coming off of that, affordability, especially when it comes to, our our generation like millennials and
Hmm. Yep.
whatnot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um And honestly, not a lot of people say this, but just dispelling inaccurate information. I
Mhm.
think that's the one of the
Mhm.
biggest challenges that, or I don't want to say inaccurate information, because I believe everything is based in some truth, no matter
Mhm.
how um, convoluted and professionally speaking, misconstrued it may be. But just people's perception of what access to home ownership really entails, if that makes sense. I think
Mhm.
that's something that is a pretty big challenge, with how rampant information
Yeah.
passes through the internet and especially social media. It's been a lot of, well, I saw them do it. Why can't I do it? And then in some
Mhm.
cases, I can't do it. And I'm like, well, let me show you how we can do it. So it's just a lot of misinformation out there. So those would be, um,
Yeah. I didn't even
you
think
know,
about that as a, really as a challenge. I guess it's just something that we talk about here and there. But
hmm
when you think about that, those misconceptions you hear, and that was something I was talking to Josh, my lender, about the other day. Those misconceptions, right? Whether it be about like, oh, this is going to happen next year, or this person told me just to wait, or this person told me to stay away from that. Is there anything that like really stands out to you the second you hear it and just makes you just get that like, oh, like man, I don't want to hear that anymore, or I've heard this so many times
Oh
and
my goodness.
I feel like I
Uh,
just hit on something just with the look in your
yeah, you
face.
did.
Yeah,
It kind of hit me in the gut.
yeah.
The no money down thing.
Mm.
I just, it's possible. Like that's the thing. Like it's possible. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
it done. I've had it done a few times now. So personally, this is why I don't ever like when I post my closings, like the deals that where that one, I don't think like how people got the house like should be that public, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
that's number one. Like, hey, congratulations, they got a house and we are able to negotiate. Like I like talking about like the hardships, but when it comes to the no money down thing, I don't really like advertising that because I know what that's gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna set the expectation that this is something that is feasible for everybody. And the one thing I hate to do as an agent, which is something I'm working on, is I hate being the bearer of bad news. So a lot of times when I have the conversation with people about, oh, I heard from somebody that bought a house, and they heard from somebody that they knew from somebody that bought a house that they were coming to the table with no money down, and then I'm like, okay, great, like it is possible, but there's several factors that
Mm-hmm.
we have to sorry, my coat was getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
There's several things that we just have to make sure of that are in place. So your credit has to be at a certain point because you're going to need to take advantage of certain grant programs to be to help cut down the closing costs. We're
Mm-hmm.
also going to need to find that house with the right seller that's going to be willing to allow you to leverage a sizable amount of seller assist. That's number two. And then number three, we'd have to make sure that your debt to income ratio is at a point where your lender will allow you to roll over your down payment into your monthly payments. So if we credit, seller assist, grant, and DT, if we do those four things, like it's not a like we're
Mm-hmm.
good. Like I don't see it'll be a problem, but in my experience, when people came to me about this is the way I need to do it to buy a house, it never worked out because at least one of those things was a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times where I had the situations where they came to the table with no money down, it was honestly figured out after the fact, like after the offer was accepted. Like we never went like I've never went into a deal with like, okay, you're coming to the table with no money down. It was, well, we had the conversation, after we got the grants and everything confirmed with the lender. Now it's just we need a seller to give us between 4 and 6% of seller assist. If we could get that, we're good. But there's this thing called the inspections that we have to be weary of too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just too many things that I'd rather it be we have everything we need now to be able to get the house. And if it just so happens to work out that way, like, hey, like who wouldn't like to buy a house and not have to put anything down at the closing table? But that's I'll be honest, that's probably my biggest challenge, because then a lot of times clients will then just they'll talk to everybody until somebody says, "Yeah, I could do that." Well,
Mm,
shocker, like we can all do it, like if the circumstances align, but it's just like that's really the main thing. So
that's a
it's that,
yeah.
and then interest rates, of course.
Hmm.
um Also too, now's not the right time. I'll be honest, this year, I honestly finally understand why, as cliche as it sounds, why it's like I tell people it's always the right time to buy. It's just a matter of what you qualify for is the question. When things were 2.5, 3%, that $400,000 house might have led to a $1,800 a month monthly payment,
Hmm.
but now the $1,800 a month payment might get you 250, 275, 300 maybe.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of what you're willing to compromise on to access home ownership. So um it's just trying to find the right opportunities with the limited inventory, as well as battling misinformation. Sorry for I'm 2025, I'm gonna do a better job of just landing the planes. I'm sorry.
No, you gave me a lot of things to actually circle back on there. First one being the idea that when from an Asian perspective, right? When you're marketing certain things or certain tactics, you realize you start attracting right
Mhm.
certain
Mhm.
certain people, right, and certain expectations.
Mhm.
And I bring that up because I was just talking about this with my dad the other day, and it's just directly in line with what you're saying about these no money down programs, or these, hey, you can get in with low credit, you can get in, with 2%, whatever it is. And you realize you start having a lot of conversations with people who may just need to take more of the time to get to a stronger financial position, a
Yeah.
stronger financial foundation, and saying, okay, these are options, but really what we need to do is we do still need to have cash on hand.
Yeah.
Because I think we talked about this on the last episode. Beyond the closing, beyond moving into your apartment, there are so many other things that still need to be paid for, right?
Yeah.
Moving is not cheap. Moving
It's
costs
not.
is movers. We had to pay movers over this past summer, man. That was not a happy bill to pay, and that was just for a two-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
So think about if you're moving into a full house, right? So you got furniture you got to buy, all these other things. Like those expenses start adding up. But like I said, and I see this a lot too. And I remember when, like years ago, when I started talking to my parents about like investing, and getting into real estate, I was all about looking at those programs, about the no money down. How can you, get into this home with seller financing, just every way of not having to just pay money, right? And there are ways of doing it. I have friends who have done it, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you're saying, you realize that there are other qualifications. And it also might put you in a bad position that you may not want to be in, because you may say, okay, I got this grant or whatever it is, but now I want to move in a year or two, not knowing that the grant says, hey, listen, you need to stay in this home for 5 years or 10 years, or else you got to pay us back that $10,000.
Mhm.
So now you got a $10,000 bill you got to pay back, and you want to save up for another house or whatever it is you want to do down the road. So it's a lot that goes into it that doesn't actually
Yeah.
get talked about in the social
Yeah.
media clips, right? In like 30-second clips, because
Mhm.
it's not viral. Nobody wants to sit here and hear like it can happen, but probably shouldn't happen for you right now. So
Yeah.
give us some time, right? Or let's
Yeah.
have a longer
Or you
conversation
might have
about
to
it.
pay this back.
It
I
like no
yeah.
nobody wants to hear that, right? What we want to hear is, hey, listen, give me a call today, and I can show you how you can get in your house in the next 60 days for no money down, out of pocket.
And I want to take a pause there. I and mm, trying to find a nice way to say it.
Yeah,
I think that's predatory, because
yeah.
for example, I have the perfect story as to when I said if I ever get into anything that really involves sales, I'm not gonna use the hook of coming to the table with no money down.
Hmm.
So I because I was my own crash test dummy for this. So this is when I was like looking for a car, and actually this experience made me not want to get a car for like the next 5 years. Like this was so it's about that time I heard of, oh man, Jared, I make so much money Uber, you can do it when you're off the
Hmm.
clock, blah blah blah. So great. So of course, when you're in need of something, you start really paying attention to the advertisements that's going around you. See ya in the Kia. Stop by Kia on the Boulevard with no money down. So I was like, yo, I could get a car with no money down. Great, got it. I went over there. I went over there,
Went over to
and
Barbera on the Boulevard.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I went. I passed Barbera. Went to Kia. I was like, I want a Kia. I heard I could no money. That's all I said. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, listen, I heard the ad, and I want to get a car today with no money down. Oh, come this way. Would you like water? Would you like this? So of course, license, test drive. I already knew I wanted the car, and I didn't know anything about a Kia. I didn't know any. All I knew was I wanted a car for no money down. That's
It
all I
moves. That's
heard.
it. It
That's
moves.
it. That's it. So it was a nice one too. It
Mhm.
kind of had like a look like a Hyundai Elantra a little bit,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and the new car smell like new car smell, new shoe smell. Like I'm already sold. So I'm done. I'm done. Like I was like I think I was like 20. I think I was like 20. I think I just
Mm-hmm.
turned 21, maybe 22. So all right, yeah, we just have to run your credit to see if you qualify. Like you didn't say nothing about credit on the ad, but no problem, no problem. So put down my credit, wrote down my credit. They ran my credit 26 times until they found somebody that would be willing to lend to me. Like I had just started,
Wow.
like my credit profile was super young. So then they're like, yeah, and so since your credit's so new, um, we're gonna need a co-signer. And if they have the good credit and they co-sign with you, um, we could get you in the car today. So one, my mom told me ever since I was 9. I kid you not. She's like, Jared, I'll never co-sign anything for you. I was 9 years old. I didn't even know what co-sign meant. I couldn't even spell it. So, but when it came up, I was like, all right, I can't ask mom. So I
Yeah.
called dad. So now this is why, just to tie back to real estate, I do not get upset when people loop their parents in to the
Mm-hmm.
decision making process. In fact, I welcome it. I
Yep.
love the dads that tear the inspection. Or I like because I want everybody involved to feel as good about this situation as possible. And the fact, if you're bringing your parent in on something, it's because you like who knows better than your parents when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to these things. In some cases, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I called my dad. I'm like, yo, dad, like they said this. He was, what's the interest rate? What's
Mm-hmm.
this? What's that? He said, better put this MFR on the phone. I was like, hey, this is such and such. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
I heard my dad yelling,
Mm.
and guy hands back the phone. So he three-way calls my stepmom, and they're like, "Listen, Jay, like we'll do this, like, cause you said you want to do this." But he said, "But he's like, ask him. He's like, ask him what the monthly payment is. Ask him this. Ask him that." And then when he told me the interest rate was 1% shy of it being a predatory loan. I think it was like
Okay.
22,
Like yeah.
23%
Mm-hmm.
APR. And then my dad was like, you'll end up paying $65,000 for that car by the time you pay it off, and your monthly payment would be probably like $1,200. And my jaw dropped, and I was like, sir, I was like, I'm not going through this. The guy had the biggest attitude, just, oh, you can see yourself out. But I was blessed to have people I could call on, and at that point, I was able to measure, do I want to get the car now or do I want to suffer later? I was able to make that differentiate. I was able to differentiate that in
Mm-hmm.
that moment. And then then I think about that story every time I deal with somebody in real estate. Like I
Mm.
think about, especially if it's just them and they don't have anybody or they don't want anybody else in on the decision making process. It's like I think about that. I think about that story every single time. So when I see people that do get these things, and in fact, when I told some clients, hey, this is what goes into that, you know what they said? I had people say, no, I don't want to get the grant if that means I can't do what it is I want with penalty. I
Mm-hmm.
had that happen. I've had some people say, well, Dad, Jared, like, I don't know what the home inspection is going to call for. So if I get this 6% now, I might not have the means, or the seller might not be willing to want to work with me to get their parents out. Now, I've had situations where we did that, where
Mm-hmm.
we could probably talk about later, that kind of help identify what properties might be willing to do that. But still, I've had some people say, I don't want to do it this way because I want agency and freedom with what it's going to cost me after the deal is done. So when you're wondering why, well, they said my mortgage was this. I said, well, you finance your down payment, you have your insurance, you use FHA, nothing wrong with FHA, but you have premium mortgage insurance. And oh, by the way, your interest rate and your PMI is dependent on your credit score
Mm-hmm.
because it's a risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're financing your down payment on top of all of that. And then in some cases, it's like, yo, if I had I known, I wouldn't have done it this way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't do it. Like, but thing is, when I go through all of my clients, if they qualify for it, if you are okay with this scenario, we'll do it. But I get to go to sleep at night knowing I told you everything that came with it. But I've had some people that said, Jared, I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah. They realize it's not the best
But
situation for them.
yeah, I had my run in. So now no payment for the I'm good. There's sometimes in fact when I got my car they tried I said nope, I don't. I was like I told them I don't want any deals. Like whatever it is, is what I want.
Give it
Like
to me the way the
if
manufacturer sent it to you.
I don't want discounts,
That's
I
it.
don't want deals like
Mm-hmm.
unless it's like retail like clothes and stuff, but when
Mm-hmm.
it's like a service or something that's a long time purchase, I'm good. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
That's the one thing that really stood out to me there, where my face kind of went crazy, was when you said they hit your credit 26 times. And
They didn't say anything.
yeah, and I want to switch into, I guess, a little bit of some fundamental
Sorry for being so
conversation.
hype. I'm sorry.
Oh
I'm
no,
sorry.
you're this is what I love about these
Okay.
conversations, right? It's because I can truly get the like passionate people on here to talk about
Yeah.
this stuff,
Yeah.
because people should talk. Once again, like we can talk about sports, right? Entertainment, like, Drake, Kendrick, like what's going on with all these different people, with the level of passion, right? We can talk about the Eagles with the level of passion, but when it comes to like these things that actually like seriously impact us, nobody passionately talks about it, right?
Mm,
So I definitely appreciate you going in on that and sharing the story, because think about it. Most people, if you are educated on the topic of credit and things like that, you understand what 26 inquiries on your report will do to you, right?
it
Especially
tore
if
me.
people don't tell you before they're about to run your credit like that. You will look at them like they are crazy. You will
Yeah.
say, why would you do that? You're going to look back at your
Yeah.
score and see it drop 60 points, right? 70 points, and then sit there and scratch your head and be like, wait, wait, wait. So one, I don't have the car now. My score just dropped, and now I have to wait who knows how long until I can actually go ahead and try to like qualify for something again. And these are just all things, like I said, people don't talk about before we usually get into the situation. And like you
Mhm.
said, if you don't have people around you who know these things, then you're just going to keep running through the same cycle over and over and
Yeah.
over, right? Just this past week, I was talking to a client actually about a difference, because we were looking at their credit score when they had applied to an apartment that we were looking at. And on the app they were using, right, they see a credit score that shows one number, and then when we go ahead and run the application, right, it pulls a completely different score. And I had to explain to them, right, some of the differences, why these things get looked at differently, why you might see a certain score on Credit Karma, and they may not be the same thing that your lender pulls, right, or that the landlord pulls when they're pulling your credit.
Mhm.
These are all things that, and that's why I said why I want to have these conversations, because these are things that we need to know, like, before we go into these situations, if we want to put ourselves in the best position.
Mhm.
And like I said, if we don't do it, then we're going to end up with higher payments. We're going to end up with not being able to get into the places that we're looking for, because that's usually, and I wasn't to ask you this, that's usually what I'm seeing now, is one of the biggest challenges that I've realized this year is credit, right? It's not even really people having the jobs that can support the monthly payment. It's not them even having the cash ready to go ahead and put down or move into the place. It's your credit isn't where it needs to be, right? Your payment history isn't where it needs to be. So what can we do to get this up to the place that it does need to be? And they sometimes just look at it and be like, oh, I didn't even know it was that serious. I
Yeah.
thought I could get into a place with a 500, 550 credit score, where they just have no idea where the credit score is. So I'm sitting there trying to scratch my head. I'm like, how do you have this conversation with more people before a month is out of them having to move? Right? Like,
Mhm.
this is stuff that if you
Mhm.
know you're going to want to buy a home in a year, if you're going to want to rent a place in a year, let's start working on that right now. But it's I don't think it's talked about enough. Like I know most families probably aren't sitting there talking about it, having financial checkups. If you're unless you're at a certain financial like income level, you're not having any check-ins with a financial planner or anything like that. So it becomes one of those things that just get talked about here and there, but once again, not frequent enough. So like, what do you think about that? Have you seen more like credit issues with people you're trying to work with?
Yeah, so this is where kind of I love my property management leasing experience because
Hmm.
for most people like credit income conversations um in the instance of apartment searching, criminal background conversations, those are uncomfortable conversations for most people, but I did it for 4.5, 5 years, so it's
Hmm.
just natural. Like, hey, what was your credit score the last time you looked at it? Okay, great. You saw it on Credit Karma. Have you ever pulled your credit report to see what the three credit bureaus are saying? No, okay, got it. Um, just so you know, that a criminal and background check will be conducted. Is there anything you want to talk about? But a lot of times, um, people just don't have the conversations. In some cases, with the clients, I'll give them benefit of the doubt. They don't think it's important or it matters. So
Hmm.
the issue. So one of the challenges that I experience is like, all right, well, if my credit's not good enough to buy a house, I'm gonna just rent. Great.
You still need, yeah.
You still need it. In fact, it's probably gonna be even harder to find an apartment than you know to get a mortgage. So um yeah, I think it's just a matter of having the conversations, and this is just where I do get passionate about prospecting, to
Hmm.
where it's like, hey, I get to be that person that might be the first person to tell them about how this process works. They may not be ready a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years or 5 years from now. In fact, they might not even want to work with me, but they'll remember what it is I told them. And my favorite thing to hear is like, oh, I never knew that. Then I did my job.
Yeah, I love that. And I had just had a conversation actually with this kid I met yesterday, and he was telling me about some of the things that he wants to do with his future. He's 19, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I want to start learning about investing, stocks, and all those things." So I was sharing some of the stuff that I've like been reading and like tapping into over the last 10 years. And like you said, you really do get a good feeling, and I've seen you do it. Like you get a really good feeling when you can actually give somebody some advice, especially advice that you wish you had ten years ago,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
be like, damn, you know what? I really hope this person uses this information because it will save you a lot of time.
yeah,
And I wish
yeah,
somebody would have told me this before.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the one thing that this is another thing too. It's another challenge is that when people fall victim to someone taking advantage of them not knowing,
Hmm.
I'll be honest, I've seen that a lot with a lot of people that when I refer them to credit repair, people are just, nah, I'm not doing it. I got scammed before, and it's
Hmm.
just that's why I love educating people, so that way when these sharks try to sell the dream and it sounds good, they're well aware of knowing how to navigate those conversations, because somebody's gonna get them eventually. I just want it to be me.
Yeah. That's
you
that,
know
that's another really good point because you do realize that there are, and I'm not wearing it today, but I have a shirt. You've seen it before that says relationships over transactions.
hmm
And I realized that is, I mean, we'll always realize that, right, in work, but it's such a true thing that there are some people that don't care about your story. They don't care about who you are. As long as they can pull a dollar out of you, any
yep,
which way, they will find a way to do it
yep,
and then toss you to the wind once the deal is done. And then if something goes wrong, if you have more questions, or even along the way, you're just not going to get that feeling as if you're working with somebody who's like a family member, right? Like somebody who really cares about you and cares about your outcome and winning this on the, and not only like winning at that time, but long term, right? Like you were talking about before. What does that look like? Okay, not only once you move in, but a year after, 5 years after, and let's continue to build that relationship and continue to build this connection. So I'm here for you, right? Because there's going to be a lot of other life events that happen along the way, and of course, if you can position yourself as somebody who is a solid resource, somebody who they can come to all the time, then it's a win-win for both of you, right? They don't have to worry about any headaches. You have a client for a lifetime, and that's the thing that I really try to pull away from people like you when I do interview people like yourself. Like I was talking about Kalia, Josh, the way you guys build those connections with people, so you aren't coming off as just somebody who's just concerned about the dollar, right? Like you guys really do care about the people that you're working with, and you're not just these sharks that are out here, because we probably know some sharks, some people some people
I
who are
know a
just like, yep,
bunch.
yep, let me just get that. Cool, your person's not worth it, get out of my face, right? And
Yep.
they just treat them like a number, like a line on an Excel sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And those are not the people we're trying to be, not the businesses we're trying to build.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you again for pointing that out.
Yeah, of
But yeah.
course.
Now I had a fun question, because I have had some tours this year that I've walked into the properties and I've been like, damn, what is going on in here? Right? Or you walk in and it's some unexpected stuff where it's just like, yo, is somebody living in this place?
Yeah.
Have you had any situations like that recently that stand out to you, where you walked in and you were like, yo, we might have to go quick?
I'm glad you asked that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had two incidents back to back, one last month and one in October. So in
Mm.
October, I actually got attacked by a dog at a showing.
No.
Yeah, I'll show you the pictures afterwards. Tenant occupied, so sometimes you go in tenant occupied and you get the confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm under the assumption that the tenant knows. So sometimes I'll go and TV's on, whatever, and they might have left. So Jer- Jared for Keller Williams, Jared for Keller Williams. So I go in. This is why I always go in first before my clients. So um, I hear a voice. Who are you? I'm like, Jared from Keller Williams. I'm here for a showing. No, you're not. I'm literally, I'm holding the key. I'm like, the seller said I could show it. "Arr-roo-roo-roo, arr-roo-roo-roo." So he's like holding the dog, and then he just, oh yeah, lets the dog go. So in my mind, from like where I was at to where the dog was running from, in my mind, I was like, "There's a small dog. It's not gonna be nothing crazy."
Mm-hmm.
Gets closer and closer. It gets bigger and bigger. So I had braced myself for a small dog, but it was a little bigger than I had like braced for, so it knocked me down into my left thigh
Oh
and bit
no.
into my right leg. And here's the crazy thing, like it was one of those things like when you see on TV in like a comical manner, um, you don't think much of it. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought of like civil rights for like sicking dogs on people. There's this level of like desensitization you have when you've never experienced something
Yep.
that you see on TV. Like you could imagine a dog bite would hurt. Like
Yeah.
you can like I know it would hurt. That was the most excruciating pain I ever felt in my entire life. So much so, bro. I think like my body kicked in for the dog to not
Mm-hmm.
sink his teeth complete. Like I think it actually went through my like the teeth met through my leg. Like
Damn, he got some leg meat.
yeah, bro, it was bad. So my leg, like I think, like my body, like the human body is just crazy. Like when stuff's going on, so it like went into like I don't know what mode to call it, but like my legs just stiffened up to prevent the dog from like getting like really into my leg.
Yeah.
So like for like the half day, like I couldn't bend my legs. Like I was literally like walking like not like I had to like swing my legs to walk because my legs just locked
Your
in.
knees were just
So
locked out.
yeah, so here was what made this even there are three instances that made this even more infuriating. So I was just like so I'm not gonna lie, like I did start to cry, but it was like anger tears because fight or flight was like at an all time high. Like that fight or flight was at an all time high. So the thing is, if I ducked out the way, the dog would have bit my clients.
Mm.
And then if I had like kicked the dog or like beat up the tenant, it's like, bro, like our realtor just punched the dog. We don't want to work with. You know what I'm saying? So all of this stuff hit me, and in my mind, it was like, bro, you just gotta take this for the team. So um, that was number one. So number one was when I found out what type of dog it was. So because my adrenaline was so high, I was like, yo, it was a Rottweiler. It was something crazy. So I asked for so I had to like kind of like fight to get the vaccine records. I had
Mm-hmm.
filed a police report. I had to go to the township for them to open up an investigation.
Wow.
So it finally they sent the LNI officer to his house. He was a no show, but eventually he went to the doctor or the vet. I saw the breed. like just thinking about it makes me want to go back to the house to have some words with the owner, bro. It was a poodle mix. It was a poodle mix. So number one, when you get bit by a dog, the first thing everybody's gonna ask you is, "What kind of dog was it?" I'm like, all right, so my street cred is done now. Like I can't. In fact, I don't even tell anybody the story no more because it's like, yo, what kind of dog was? I'm like, bro, I can't tell them. I got mauled by a poodle mix. So that's number one. So you guys know the breed. That's number one. Number two, the guy then pretended to not speak no English. That was a crazy. He was just like, I don't understand. I was like, yo. And then number three, my clients at the time did not buy the house. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I had
yeah,
to I had to mute myself. I didn't want to
yeah.
laugh in your moment of pain
Nah, bro.
and tribulations there. Uh,
So I'm not gonna lie. So I go out the house and like I'm not gonna lie. Like I have black pants on. Like you can see the blood in my thighs. I was like, so I was really like my realtor had kicked in. So I was like, yeah. So what you guys think? Like you guys want to put an offer? They're like, no. I was just like, all right, maybe the next one. Nah, they yeah they opted into rent. So I was just like, yeah, yeah. So that was that. And also too, do you know? So I was not insured at the time. So here's where like when if
mm.
yeah, bro, like it's scary when you don't have no insurance.
Bro,
It's it actually happens to you. So everybody was like, "Yo, just go to urgent care to get to get the rabies shot." So I go, bro. So I go to urgent care. First off, I've been to urgent care like twice. Like the first one was like I like sprained, like it went for some minor. Like I think I sprained my wrist once, and then another time it was for a drug test I had to do. So this was like the first time I went to urgent care, and I was like, I need to go to urgent care because I can't go to the hospital. That's the most vulnerable feeling in the world, bro. When it's like you need to go to urgent care because you can't go to the hospital is a crazy feeling. So that's why healthcare being a universal right, bro. Like yes, bro, it's scary. So I go there, so you fill out the. If anybody's been to urgent care, y'all know what I'm talking about. So you have to go fill out. First off,
yep.
anybody who works in urgent care doesn't want to be in urgent care. So all that, good morning, none of that. There's no snacks. There's no even water. It's sign in, sit down. Like that's literally. So I sign in, limp over. So what annoyed me was I was the only person there, and I still had to sign in. So it was like, bro, you know who's next. So they let me sign in, had me go sit down, to get back up to go back, like literally in a 15-second interval. So we see it was a dog bite. I was like, yeah. They're like, so do you need the rabies shot pre-bite or post-bite? So I was like, post-bite. They're like, oh nah, we don't do that. Only pre-bite. You gotta go to the ER. So my lady's with me. She starts crying. She starts crying. And she's like, baby. I guess I got it. She's like, babe. She's like, I did the research. That's gonna be $10,000. So I was like, if this dog has it's a wrap for me. So I called my doctor friend, my best friend Nick, he's a pediatrician. I was like, bro, I got bit by a dog. He was like, first off, he was like, if that's rabies. I said, all right, cool. I'm gonna prescribe some antibiotics. But he was like, bro, like you gotta figure it out. So his wife, like, it's crazy. I love having friends that have all walks of life because she knew exactly. She's like, yeah, Jared, you got about a 3 week window before it starts to turn. So I'm thinking when she said turn, I'm thinking it's some Last of Us Resident Evil stuff. So I'm like, yo, am I gonna turn into a zombie? They're like, yeah, nah, they gotta do examination on the dog. They gotta check its brain. I was like, yo, I'm scared. So at that time, I was like, listen, yo, I was like, I need the vet records. I was like, so here's how I ended up getting it. I hate using this. So when I called my lawyer, my real estate attorney, Eric Freeman. I call him. So first thing, I'm a oh my that bro felt so empowering, bro. I was like, I'm pressing charges. I'm gonna have my lawyer reach out. Yo, I felt like the man until A, he told me the retainer, and then B, he was like, Jared, he was like, honestly, dude, he was like, if you're, he was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. He said, If it doesn't have rabies, he was like, I wouldn't even bother. My lawyer said that, so I was like, so that was story number one. So, and then like I said, they didn't end up buying at all, so it was kind of like, damn. But then my favorite one this year,
First off, before
mhm.
that is so crazy. I can't wait to clip up that whole section.
Yeah,
That
man,
is
yo,
so
urgent care
so
doesn't
crazy,
give post dog bite rate. Like,
bro.
and it was one of those things
When
where,
you said that, oh
like,
no, you got to go to the ER. You
yeah,
said
bro.
post. Oh,
So
you
you know,
go,
and what I realize is there's no such thing as a small, like, the more niche your situation, the more urgent it is. Like, so bro, it got to a point, bro, I was going on Reddit. I was like, yo, has anybody ever got bitten by a dog? Like, what did you do? Like, I was on
I love
Reddit, bro.
Reddit,
I made an account and everything, and then finally I saw it was like from like 7 years ago, and it was like, yeah, the dog had rabies, and they had to do this. They had to. I was like, yo, this is wild. So like, yeah, I never felt in a weird way. This is what kind of like reinvigorated me to kind of go even harder for my business, because it's like, yo, you never know what's gonna happen. Like, you just want to be prepared for as much as you can for if anything happens. Like, but you know what I mean? Like, I was like, had I had insurance, I could have just went to the ER, maybe paid a couple $100 and known I was good. But glory be to God, or whatever it is you believe in. I believe in God, but like, I was like straight up that like nothing happened. And then in my mind, I'm like, dang, I wonder how many people are getting bit by dogs that have rabies and they can't do nothing about it. Like I never like when people think of like disease and stuff, I'm pretty sure rabies is not top on the list.
bro.
You know what I mean?
That's like when you see people like raising money for certain causes, and you're wondering, it's like, how did they get connected to
Yeah,
that?
like
I
like
wonder what the backstory was in that one.
but now until it's you, like, listen, people
This
do
might be
GoFundMe's.
this might be your calling for the
It
in the
might
next
be,
like
man.
10,
Free,
15
like, yeah,
years.
free rabies shots,
Blow
bro.
up now, and then you come back around, free rabies shots for
Listen,
everybody. You
I'm
find,
I'm pulling up with a truck. Come get your rabies shot. It was like, it was funny now, but like when I think about it, it was just like, yo, like, you like, when I see, like, I'm like, like alopecia, like, but then,
yeah,
but
it's just,
unless
yeah,
it's you or
you're not
somebody
thinking
you
about
love
it,
and care about, like, you're not really thinking about it. It was
bro. one
honestly too.
hundred percent.
It's almost like homelessness. Like, like, we all have a like some tug on our heartstrings. We hear like, oh, the
Mm-hmm.
homeless coat drive, sock drive, turkey giveaway, blah blah blah. But there's a level of like, all right, cool, I did my part, until it's
Mm-hmm.
somebody you care about. Like this past year, and I was like calling some friends to see how they're doing. Bro, three of my friends were homeless. So now it hits different when, hey man, you got change. Now it's, I mean, all I got is 20 here. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Because now it's like, yo, like, as sad as it sounds, like, I think it helped my level of empathy for things that I don't understand. Because I said, you know what, it might not be that important to me until it's somebody I care about. But yeah, nah, it was such a niche vulnerability, and I was just like, yo, it was one of those things. So I was, as my doctor, I was like, yo, can you just like get it for me? Like, can you just like, like, right, like, and just like, I
Mm-hmm.
meet you in the back alley and you just like shoot me, like, you know what I'm saying?
yep.
Like, it was getting to that point.
Yep.
But that was such a weird moment. And then I was doing an so this was actually like the day before Thanksgiving, actually. Oh, so I it's kind of crashed too. I seen a lot of stuff in property management. This was the first time I ever had this happen. So, someone, hey Jad, I want to see a triplex. So my thing is like with investors out of town, I'm just like, hey, like, let me go look at it, and I'll send you some photos and videos.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we didn't know you was gonna be here, and it was like a part in like West Philly that kind of, I was
Mm.
like, nah, I gotta go during the daytime. Like, it was one
Mm-hmm.
of those deals. Like, it was. Can we see it at 7:30? Nah, how about I
Nope.
do this video tour for you at 2 o'clock?
Not in
Like,
the
how's
wintertime.
that sound? So I knock on the door.
Yep.
So first unit, fine, not a problem. Not, oh, who's that? Hey, Jeff from Keller Williams. I'm here for a show, and I promise to be in and out. Oh, nah, they didn't tell me anybody was coming. So this dude opens the door. Like, the smell of liquor just hit me. I'm like, oh
Oh
shit.
gosh.
That wasn't the worst part, bro. That wasn't the worst part. So I start doing math before I could compute the situation. So I see a stroller next to the unit. I look at him, and then right behind him, right behind, yeah, I'm just like, I'm right behind him. Is this lady? Like literally, she was just like with a dead face, with a dead face. She said, "Bro, she was butt naked, bro, butt naked, butt naked," and I felt violated, and I had my clothes on because here's what made it weird. Normally, and I say normally, unless you're into like being a nudist or whatever, like, or even then you have boundaries. Like, unless you are that person, like, yo, I'm butt naked. I don't care who. What weirded me out wasn't the fact that she was naked. It was the fact that she stood there staring at me like this, everything out, dude. And so the dude was like, so the dude said, yo, if you want to come back in about 30 minutes when we done, you could do your thing. And I was like, stroller, lady in the apartment, come back in 30 minutes when we're done, cash on the dresser, air mattress on the floor. Oh, I was like, you know what, brother? I said, you got it. And I walked out. I told the client, this is what happened. If I'm not going in, I'm not going in there. I'm not going, I'm not going in there. So
imagine, imagine if they took the time to come in, fly into the city, go do that walkthrough with you, to see that, to see
yeah,
that.
dude, it was,
This is the stuff that you literally can't make up these stories when people say
can't,
like, "Yo, why isn't the neighborhood turning around? What's going on? Why can't we do better?" It's because this is your neighbor.
this is your
Okay,
neighbor.
this is your neighbor acting like this,
Yeah,
acting
it was,
crazy, butterball naked with strollers in the kitchen.
bro. It was so uncomfortable. Like in Papa Man, I ran and they're like I like, but she was just.
Just,
And here's the thing, she didn't say anything.
bro, maybe she couldn't speak English like the person who let the dog bite
I don't
you.
know. That money on the dresser showed that she knew plenty of English.
Everybody know cash.
Hey
Everybody,
man,
everybody knows
I ran
cash.
out of there. I ran out of there. It was.
That is that is absolutely hilarious. I'm
Hey
so happy
man,
you shared that story. That is both of
I
those
love what I
stories.
do.
That
I
is,
love I love what I do.
we might just have to have like a segment where we just talk about like the horror stories because this is funny.
Yeah, like
This is good funny stuff.
yeah, it keeps it light, but it comes with the territory. Like I'm not lying, when I see certain houses at certain price points, I'm like,
You know what you're walking into.
yeah, like
Listen,
and I like to let my clients know. I'm like, listen, this is $60,000 in Kensington, not gentrified Kensington,
bro,
but like,
did you see the listing that I just posted last week? Is that why you
yeah,
brought up that, bro? There's one. I'm not going to say the exact address, but it's over in that area, right around
mm-hmm.
Sargent, and it
Oh,
is dropped.
oh,
Come on, man,
oh,
don't make that reaction.
oh,
It's in an up and coming. It's in a nice up and coming area. Okay, okay. Give it a few years. Give it a few years. It's going to be just
yeah,
like Fishtown. All
yeah.
right.
I
But that is exactly what you're saying. It's one of those properties where it's like you look at it, you hear everything that's going on around it, and then you start asking yourself, and this is what I always say, like, if I wouldn't move into this place, if I wouldn't want to rent this place, if I wouldn't want to buy it, how do I convince this to somebody else that this is in their best interest?
What's
Knowing,
crazy? No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna finish up saying, like, knowing that we have like a fiduciary right to these
Hmm.
people, right? To say, like, okay, like, let me like advise you in the best way as possible, right? Like, let me show you everything that's going on with this, right? Like, this tenant, you're probably gonna have to get evicted, which may take you a couple of months. And if they don't want to leave, maybe the sheriff might be able to get them out, whatever it is. But like, there is a lot of things that's gonna go into this. Then on top of that, you got to put 40, 50,000 into it just to get it up to a bare minimum level. Do you want to deal with these challenges over the next 12 months? Right. And it's just like, no, let's go check out the next neighborhood.
Yeah.
Let's go a couple houses down.
And I'll be honest, that's another challenge too, is explaining to people, like, I'll be honest, like, Jared, what's the cash on this property?
Mm.
I couldn't tell you. Like, or I couldn't tell you in minutes. Like, I could get back to you a little later.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know what I mean?
Like you're not a
I could,
walking calculator?
right,
You
like I could get it to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, what's the projections? I, I'm sorry, but like you said, like my gut feeling of like if I'll say this, I tell people all the time, I say it's all about your strategy. I said, it's all about your strategy. Because with Fishtown, like the real Fishtown,
Mhm.
Northern Liberties, and Port Richmond are now, it wasn't that way 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But
Oh,
there were some
100%.
people, but but I tell people, especially like investors, is it's all about your strategy. So I said, if you have a long-term strategy, the impact of the risk over long term like diminishes over time. So that's number one. So if you're going into like, hey, I'm not really expecting anything out of this for the next 5 to 10 years, you could probably invest anywhere and be all right, whether it works out or it doesn't,
Mhm.
because the properties that kind of tick off that box, it's a low barrier to entry. You know what I mean? So so that's my thing. But if it's like, hey, Jared, I want a neighborhood where I'll have no issue with rents and there's good tenants now because of redlining and steering, I can't tell you like, hey, I think this is a good
Avoid this
like
area. Yeah, avoid
a
that area.
good neighborhood.
Mhm.
However, I could show you the areas on paper that have successful consistent rents. What happens with that? Oh, but Jared, they want to sell this duplex for $450,000 and it needs all this work. I said because of the stability. You got to pay for it one way or other. It's if you want everything today, right here, right now, the way it is, you got to pay the money. Or I want to get in at a deal. I'm
Mhm.
going to delay my gratification and get in where the barrier to entry is low. Great. I might not see that return for quite some time, or in some cases, I might not see it at all. But I'm playing the long game.
Mhm.
Once again, people hear stuff from somebody that heard from somebody. So, for example, Jared, what do you mean we can't get into the problem? I'm dealing with this right now. It's 50,000, and they're not doing any interior showings. Like, said
Mhm.
I said,
It's
because
tough.
it's $50,000. Well, how am I supposed to know? I said, here's the thing. There's somebody out there that's willing to take the risk, buying it sight unseen to
Yeah.
do whatever it is that they need to do to get it up and running. If that's not what you're willing to compete against, let's talk about it and find you opportunities where you can mitigate that risk as much as possible to do what it is you want to do to get what it is you want. So you might not want to look at anything under $95,000. Like it's just so like that. Those are the hard conversations because like I've seen you know people that played the long game that are now starting to benefit something that they
Mhm.
did 10 years ago, and now people are, I want to go and make instant money. No, if you do a flip, maybe, like that's what I tell people. I'm like, all right, if your strategy is I want to get in and get out, but here's the thing: the areas that have those level of returns that you want are going to be expensive and to be highly competitive. Like there was that listing. I don't mind telling people
Mhm.
times I lost clients. So, a guy really wanted to get into like Rosalind for like 250,000.
Okay.
I was like, I could get it for you. You're not gonna like it. Found something. Literally, the front of the house was like it was like this is a house like this is the
Mhm.
front. It was literally like this.
Mhm.
Like if you got on the step and looked over that wall, you're looking into the living room. Oh, I'm gonna want to do an inspection. I'm gonna want to do this. The seller has to understand. I said, I want that for him. I said,
Mhm.
but here's what we're going up against. This just went live yesterday. Properties in this area tend to sell at this price point in less than a week. So more times than not, there's probably already offers on it.
Mhm.
That's just number one. Number two, you're going up against people that aren't going to have the same contingencies that you are to make it happen. Well, why would anybody spend more than that? I said because here's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to buy for 250, 265, 270, probably cash. Put 85. Let's just put 100 grand into it. They're going to sell it for 450, 475. Like
Mhm.
that return is worth the risk to somebody.
Yeah.
So, well, what's that mean for me? I said somebody's going to pay more, ask for less to get this house to do what it is they want to do. If that's not what you're willing to do, we could put the offer in, which we did, but I just want to gauge the expectations of what we're going up against. Like that's what I always love to do for people. Is like, hey,
Hmm.
this is what we're going up against. This property just hit the market yesterday. It's Friday. It's going into the weekend with an open house. Listen, anything that just hit the market, and they're going like there's gonna be people. So I don't think they're going to be keen to accepting an under asking offer at this time. We could put the offer in, but it's my
Hmm.
job, like you said, to advise. So I say all that to say, um, I just let people know what the deal is. Like, I don't like the neighborhood. I know it's $50,000. Like, like, oh, it needs too much work. It's it's $50,000
Yep.
respectfully. So that's where sometimes, as I'm dealing with, I call them beginner investors. I don't care what anybody says, like, because more times than not, at least with my current skill set, the people
Hmm.
I'm running to are first time investors. I don't like, oh, I flipped the house before. No, no, you didn't. No, no, you didn't. No, you
Hmm.
didn't. Because when we start to go to hard money, and my lender tells me, Jared, they never did this before, which is not a problem. A lot of times, the education when it comes to that is like, I just like, what do you think the deal looks like? That's a question I
Hmm.
ask for people. I ask people now. I'm like, hey, like,
Yeah.
what does a deal look like to you? If it's getting it
Hmm.
for dirt cheap, which I think would be amazing, but unfortunately, this isn't '08 anymore where they're throwing houses at people. But all right, we just have to look at that. Here's everything in the city that's
Hmm.
1,200 to 1,500 square feet. That's below $75,000. I don't like any of the neighborhoods. I don't like this. I don't like that. Great, got it. So what you're looking for might be somewhere else.
Yep.
Now, what risk are you willing to undergo to open up the opportunities to you for what's possible? And I'll be honest, like I said, with my current skill set, that's where I lose people. Like it's like I'm sorry, like anything that's an investment's a risk. Well, what if it doesn't work out? What if we
Hmm.
get a tenant that doesn't pay rent? I I can't tell you, but this is
Yeah.
but the people, and one thing I learned about this year is the people that have and the people that don't have, the difference is the people that do have are always taking risks.
Hmm. Yeah, and just to like you're saying, landing the plane earlier, just to sum it up there with that, what you just said, I think I wouldn't even really say it's maybe based on your skill set, but I think maybe it's from what I'm hearing based on their level of understanding
Yeah.
of what to expect, right? What the situation should look like. Maybe like you said, they might have done a deal before with somebody, maybe it was a partnership or something, right, where they didn't have full control or they didn't see all the moving parts, and or maybe it was just so simple that they just look at it, then that's how it should be every time. It's a very different conversation than you said than when you're talking to somebody who's been in this for 10, 15, 20 years. And just based on my conversations with people on both sides, it's a really big difference, right? Like the level of expectations, like you said, even the time they give you to get stuff back to them, like, hey, give me some protections back on this, right? Blah blah blah. Person who's been invested in this and done this for a while, they understand you're not going to get them that information in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Do they still expect it in a timely manner? 100%, right? But they're not like, oh, you don't know the return on this. Well, I'm going to go check with somebody else. Like, we got to run some things. We got to pull in some information, check the comps, check when this was listed, all these different, like, what's in that house. There's a lot of factors that people, once again, aren't telling you about in the social media content that you might have pulled this strategy from. So let's take some time, break it down, and then get into it. But talking about content, we got to end it with the content rec of the week. So
Oh,
you
has
got
it been an
anything,
hour already?
bro? Yeah, man, how crazy is it? I was sitting there looking at the time and I was like, damn, I thought we were going to be around 45 minutes already.
My bad,
Yeah.
man. I
No,
lose track of time. I lose track
no,
of time
bro,
on
those two
here.
stories were perfect. Like I told you, those.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, going to the content rec. What you got for us?
It's more music now, so I'll be
I like it.
honest. This past year I think what's been helping me drive for more is I just started getting back into my angsty teenager vibes lately. Like no one understands me. So it's been a lot of that. So yeah, I'll go off of like my most recently played stuff, or my replay 2024 for Apple Music. So
Mm,
it's been a lot of Limp Bizkit for some reason.
okay.
How that happened, I couldn't tell you. Frank Sinatra.
Mm,
Um, there's this new band. Actually, let me check a look. I
okay.
actually just
A new band. What you been listening to? Some like Korean pop?
oh,
You,
it's been a lot of stuff.
you a K-pop fan?
Not really, not really. I'm actually about to pull up
I
this
only bring
band.
that up because the other day I was watching a Amazon had, I forget who was playing one of the Thursday night games,
Mhm,
and you know how they do like the concert like after now on Amazon Prime.
mhm,
So I'm sitting there and I walk back in my room and I'm seeing the game now on the concert and I'm like, who is this? Five
mhm.
seconds later, I catch myself doing that little like Jay-Z, give like sitting there
Yeah,
bobbing my head. I'm like, oh, this kind of catchy.
yeah,
2 minutes later, I'm Shazamming the whole thing. I'm looking them up.
yeah,
I'm like, okay, okay, I see the K-pop. They got it going. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's this band. It's called
Yep.
Free Throw. They're
Okay.
pretty cool. They're pretty edgy, and um nobody gets me. And honestly, in hip hop, there's been a lot of Larry June and Jay Worthy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a lot of that. So yeah, I don't know like where that switch happened, but like 2024, it was just a lot of punk rock, Frank and like Larry June.
Mm.
I just like like it's weird. Like I'm always like, you listen to that stuff. Like whenever I see like my most recently played, I'm
Hmm.
like, and then sometimes when I play as a playlist, it's just you don't ever want me on the. I tell people so you don't you really don't want me on the aux. Like
I know what you mean.
for real, you really don't want me on there.
It could be all over the place.
It is all over the place.
Hmm.
Like it could go from being in love to Creed was oh my god. So whenever I'm having like a bad business day where I'm
Hmm.
just like some Clorox on the rocks
Yep.
and a fork in an outlet
Yep.
would go crazy right now. I always listen to Creed. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's just like
I feel like everybody has that song though. Like there's a song or an artist. Like for me, I say it every time. Hit 'em up by Tupac.
mhm.
That's it. If I just need to go into a dark place and just be like, all right, I'm unplugging from the day. Let me
Yeah,
just let me
yeah,
just get yeah.
I just say yeah, that last breath. Oh my God. I just oh man. But yeah, that's really what it's been lately.
Hmm.
It's just been a really like deep dive and exploring like new music, new bands and everything.
I like that. I like that, man. And I'm gonna send it home with a show rec, another one I got in the rotation now. Finished up some of the old ones that I was recommended a couple weeks ago. But this week I stumbled upon the Equalizer, not the Denzel one, not the
I know
Denzel one. The show. You know the show I'm talking about,
I love Queen Latifah. That joint is
bro.
so trash, bro.
Thank you. I'm so
That
happy
show
you
is
said it
so
before I
trash,
said it
bro.
because that's
That joint
exactly
is
what I said to my brother.
so trash, bro.
But Jared, they
I
got me.
love Queen Latifah, bro.
They trapped me.
That show is such trash, bro. Like
Bro,
I never
Jared,
hated
from the
like
fight
I
scenes
yeah, bro.
to the
Like get
everything.
out of here,
It is
man.
the most unbelievable role I have ever seen her play.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
saying. It's like I'm sorry, like I
you
might
know,
get canceled, but like certain people can't do certain things well.
but
Like I'm
so you get it,
sorry.
bro. This is what I was trying to say to my brother, and he was calling me a hater. I said, no, you just need to sit here and
Oh,
watch a couple episodes, and you'll understand what I'm saying. It is great content that you don't have to expect a lot from. And
oh
sometimes,
my
sometimes
God.
throughout the week, you just need shows like that. I was telling him about this. I was like, you get to this point where you just need some shows where it's like you don't expect a whole bunch of deep drama. You don't want too much highly produced. It's just like, yo, just give me something lighthearted, maybe a couple
Oh
action
my
scenes
God.
that's still too unbelievable. And then give me somebody who also looks like they definitely can do these scenes.
I
And
just
that is what I got from the Equalizer. And now look at me here on season 2 already because I've just been letting the episodes just roll on in the background while I'm doing stuff. And it's one of those kind of shows. Sometimes you just need something on. It's
oh
it's a
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
perfect
yeah. The
it's a
background. I
perfect
call it white noise. Yeah, to help me go to
yes.
sleep.
And
Yeah.
that is what it's perfect for me right now. And that's the thing that I'm trying to get into. So
That
Yeah, man.
show
I would. You don't
sucks.
understand how happy you just made me when you said that
Cause
that
I'll
show
be
sucks.
honest, like I love Denzel, but Equalizer 3, I was like, all right, bro,
You
this
got to
gotta
stop
be
now.
the last one. I was
Got to
like,
stop
this
now.
gotta. I was telling my lady that I was like, yo, I was like, it was cool. I
Hmm.
liked it. I thought it was good, but after a while, I was like, yo,
At a certain point, you just got to go out on
yeah,
that high note there
yeah.
and be like,
I
okay,
was
now we're
like, yo,
done.
and I know it's a movie, but I was like, yo, this is starting to get unbelievable now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like it's just
You see,
like
people are going to listen to that and be like, Jared, what do you mean it's starting to get unbelievable? It was unbelievable
it's
in
like I
Equalizer
don't.
1 when he set his watch and was like, all right.
That was real to me. I was like, so funny thing about the Equalizer. So that was one of the first movies in a long time.
Yeah.
Um, that was one of the first movies in a long time where I was like, oh, like 'cause I didn't know. So here's what happened.
Hmm.
Like it was like a free subscription. I had like the Showtime or whatever. So then I saw the ad. I'm like, all right, Denzel with a gun. Like it got to be crazy.
Yep.
The first 30 minutes, I was like, what? I was like, this joint looks like a Home Depot simulator. Like, what am I watching here? You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's a little prostitute girl. So I was like, all right, whatever. I thought it was going to be he fall in love with her, they run away or whatever. When he went to that office, I was just like, I was like, I don't know what's
Yep.
going on here. So
Hmm.
then when he did the joint with the skulls, and then he did the thing with the door, I'm like, yo, I don't know what's happening here. 16, 16 seconds. So I literally was like, all right, whatever. Did you forget something? And the guy came with the gum, socked him. I was like, oh, like, no. So I was living at home with my mom at the time. She's like, what's going on down there? I was like, this is. My mom never allowed curse in the house.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, this is great. So I was a grown man on punishment. Like my mom, I was like 23, 24, and she was like, yo, you on punishment.
Yeah.
Bro,
You out here acting crazy.
that like the Equalizer 1 is like my favorite one out the
Hmm.
trilogy, and then a two was really good too though. But 3, I watched that support, but then I was just kind of like, yo, I was like, babe, like he gotta like this gotta be the last one. Like
3, they're
this.
getting carried away. They're getting too carried away from me here. So we gotta hang that up there. But bro, that's how I
Yeah,
feel about.
I was, but the show. Ew, no, 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 no. As soon as I saw it, and I
Yep.
love I love me some Queen Latifah's fact. She was one of my first crushes when I was a kid
Okay.
when I used to watch
Okay.
Living Single. So I love everything she does
Hmm.
except that.
Mm.
I was like, no, no. I was like, why? I was like,
You just
why? Like,
yep,
I was like, why?
bro. That's
So
exactly how I felt when I saw the commercials coming on about. I forget which channel it comes on, but I was like, I'm gonna skip on that one. But then
yeah,
Netflix
nah,
got me when
that's more like that.
they put the 3 seasons on there. I was like, okay,
Nah,
I don't got anything else
that's
to
a
watch right
season.
now.
Not that's a non-rec for me. That's Rotten Tomatoes 0. Like
No,
there's
no,
nothing.
no, not a
There's
zero, not a zero.
there's nothing
You got to give it
that
at least like a 30, 35.
no, no. Like
Yes.
that was one of the few things I've ever. The only saving
Yeah.
grace is because like I think Queen Latifah looks great in leather. I'm
Hmm.
sorry. Whenever Queen Latifah wears something in leather, I'm like, I'm in. But there is nothing
Hmm.
about that show that I like. There's nothing. There
Hmm.
like normally it's like I could take some tidbits here and there, but I was like, there's nothing I like about this show. Like there's nothing there.
Bro, it's tough. No,
wh-
you really have to like pull like it's like you're really just like
Oh,
searching and
you're better
searching and
than
searching.
me.
And that's why I said
That
you just
that
got to leave it on in the background. But this is the point I'm at because I've recommended some like heavy hitters the last couple of episodes. So there's only so many great pieces of content right that you can watch over a 2 month span. So
Nah,
this is
that's a
where we're
L,
at, people.
Dikembe.
This is where we're at.
That's an L.
Sometimes
You're
you take
better off
L's in
promote.
life.
You're better off promoting chain
Some
smoking, man.
no, no.
Oh that
Sometimes
oh
sometimes you're better off just taking L's in life and just taking the content for what it is, people. You don't always have to be too consumed, too tapped in, unless you're watching this, of course, and listening to me and Jared.
yeah.
But some
Listen,
things, like I said,
when in doubt, put on the wire, folks. When in doubt, when you don't know what to
where
watch,
can we find that? Because my brother was just saying
HBO
he
Max.
never finished it. He never finished it, so he got to watch that, bro. You know this younger generation. He gonna hate that I'm saying this, but you
I'm
know
not
this.
gonna hold you. I didn't. I watched The Wire for the first time like a year ago, and
Oh, so you were part of this nonsense?
I am, but it's
Mm,
the but I blame my
mm.
parents. I blame my parents because I'll tell you
Oh,
this:
you same. No,
most
as
of the
soon as I
people.
got out the house, I watched The Wire.
No, so here's the most of the people that were telling me to watch The Wire,
Yeah.
their parents let them watch it as a kid. So
Oh, that's
like
crazy.
my best friend, he's from Baltimore. He's
Hmm.
like, yeah, he was like, me and my family used to watch it together, and I was like, so that's how it is with The Wire and The Sopranos.
The Soprano. That's
Anybody that's
exactly what I thought.
our
Yeah, yeah,
age that
yeah.
watches that, they watched it as a kid.
Hmm.
So like, it was
I
one of
got
those
Italian
things that
friends
if you,
like that.
yeah,
Yep, I know exactly what you mean.
oh, my
Yep.
friend Joe, oh my God, he was like, dude, it was a rite of passage. As soon as I
Yeah,
turned
you got to
10,
watch this
my
coming up.
dad put it on. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's funny.
uh,
That's funny.
yeah,
But oh man, here we are.
I know, right?
Knocked out another great episode. Coming to the end, people. This was about 20 minutes longer than we expected it to be, but primarily because of those two hilarious stories that we heard. So I can't wait. I'm just gonna clip that out and make that a whole video in itself, and just post that up with you because that's gonna be funny. That's gonna be a
I
funny
love it, man. I
funny
love it.
video. But Jared, thank you again.
Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
it's always great when you get to share these stories, share some of the lessons and tips for the people. Make it a little bit of education, a little bit of entertainment, keep it fun and lighthearted. But hey man, we got some the New Year's coming up, if it's not already
Yeah,
here by the time this drops. But
yeah.
we know we got some big things coming up. So good luck with everything, man.
Same to you, brother. Appreciate you for always having me, man.
No, no problem, no problem. And people, enjoy the holidays. Stay tuned, stay curious, and as always, enjoy your first sip. Peace.